Mari, go ahead. Lead us off just in case if we didn't hear.
Have we been muted this whole time while we were sitting here talking?
Go ahead and tell us why we're here, Mari.
Dear Lord have mercy. I'll start over. I don't know why my mic mustn't have been, so I don't know. Who knows? We're live. Hey. Stuff happens. So a 6.6 earthquake struck off of, let me just zoom out now. I'm all thrown off now by my mic not working. The Banda Sea. We and myself and Jake were just discussing while the mic was muted. Oh, there's some more alerts. That I don't know if it's the same one.
That is the same one. That's the app that I use. That's been downgraded, so it went from a 6.6 to a 6.4. Anyway, we were discussing just the uptick in earthquakes, and this particular one is a 6.6. Looks like it got downgraded to a 6.4. And I just try keeping people updated, anything 6.0 or higher, but I have noticed an unusual, amount of earthquakes happening today. My phone, I have a couple different apps that go off when earthquakes strike, and there's been a definite uptick. And on that, I will apologize for the muted mic in the beginning of this video, but I will also go ahead and pass the mic over here to Jake because he has been doing a little bit of research himself. Well, and just quickly, some stats for the week. We've been at 618 earthquakes, excuse me, at last check. So normally we average between 380 and 480 a week. 600 is definitely a little bit more of uptick for the week anyway, for the last 7 days. Mari and I were just discussing how we were under a watch for a possible 8.0 or higher for the last 3 weeks, and that didn't happen. But today, I think the activity of all the 5.5s and higher with the 6.6 that just got downgraded to a 6.4, I think that these sudden round of several earthquakes makes up for that 8.0 that we didn't get. So, was that another one?
No, this is just me.
Gotcha.
Turning my phone on.
Her phone, and now my phone app is now working. It wasn't before, but
whoa, hi, whoa, see.
But
I just want to get in the chat here.
My app wasn't working earlier, but Mari's has been going off most of the day today. 4.4s, 4.6s, nothing major, but it's just weird how Japan, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, we've seen 5.5s and higher in those regions today. So definitely been a rocky start to Sunday, and it doesn't look like it's settled down at all. So Mari again caught this, and we felt it was necessary to kind of get on here to let everybody know that we've got a little bit of uptick in activity. Mari, did you say there was a tsunami warning or anything like that?
There is no tsunami warning at this time. You guys probably caught the graphic in the beginning before I realized my mic was off. So I probably unmuted like the wrong audio device or something. I'm not sure. I actually was reading an article today, Jake, and I didn't even run it by you, but I was reading that they have predicted that 2018 would have an increase in earthquakes, and it had something to do with the lunar orbit. And they tried to use analogies like riding a bike on a carousel, and the earth is slowing down, and then the moon is orbiting at a certain thing, so something tectonically is happening. I don't 100% know how to explain it just off the cuff like that, but it's been predicted that there will be more earthquakes. I think we have a lot of different components contributing to earthquake factors. Certainly solar activity plays a role, in my opinion, although many will, we'll get many haters will debate that.
We'll get those people out there that think it's ludicrous for us to link earthquake and solar activity. And Mari and I, being as new to this community as we are, we think it's ludicrous to think otherwise, just because of all the information that we've got out here. Suspicious Observers does a good job of breaking things down, helping people try to understand the science between solar activity and what it does to our planet.
And, you know, there's other good channels out there as well that help with grand solar minimum news. So, yeah, it does seem a little absurd when I hear things that these folks, today we were listening to a person I'm not going to even mention, but, you know, he started talking about how the grand solar minimum is going to be very minute effect to coming up here. This oncoming grand solar minimum that we're going to have is going to have little effect to our climate. And I just think to myself, he started reporting the history of grand solar minimums and then went off on some crazy rant. But the point is that if he acknowledges these minimums, like the Maunder minimum, and he knows, and he was talking like, you know, low solar activity leads to cooling, blah, blah, blah. But the thing that he kept missing is that he's saying there's too much CO2 in the atmosphere, and that's what's keeping everything warm. So when the sun bounces off the surface, it stays trapped. But that's not true. Because of the CO2, and it's very high right now, we have more clouds in our atmosphere that doesn't let the sun's rays hit to the surface under full attack. So it's reflecting solar back out into space. That's where he's lying in the first part. Secondly, temperature rise comes first, then CO2. And that, I mean, you know, just stupid little things like that. But I still find it funny that we are the ones, us grand solar minimum community, we're not the ones that understand the science, according to these global warming people.
Well,
but
they're relating the grand solar minimum to being like, to climate change as the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and
Tooth Fairy, and Nibiru.
Like so it's, you know, it's fictional like that. So, you know.
I think they're right about the global warming being man-made. That should be thrown in there with the Tooth Fairy. But as far as, you know, warming, we're done warming. Happens in cycles. And I want people to think about something here before I get off here. The next time you hear somebody that says, yeah, we're going to go into the grand solar minimum and it's just going to cool a little bit, but it's going to slow down global warming. That's all it's going to do. Think about how vague that statement really is. Well, of course it's not going to stop global warming. Nothing stops these cycles. So we get global cooling for a cycle, we get global warming for a cycle. But it's all natural and it's all in cycles. So, you know, when someone makes that comment that it's not going to stop global warming.
Well, they're saying global warming will save us from the global cooling. So if you look back in history to like the Maunder minimum and, you know, we're dealing with a lot of problems. You're dealing with and this is without all the political war and all that. You're dealing with some natural disasters. Back then, crazy weather. Now we're having those same weather patterns.
More population.
With those crazy weather patterns, we have less farms now than they did back then. We have a higher population now than they did back then. And the severity of the weather is wiping out our crops. I mean, those are simple facts, whether you think the earth is cooling or warming or whatever. We have to really like step back and look at our history and realize, connecting the dots, that this is a natural cycle, and the best thing that we can do is instead of putting out stuff making fun of one another, saying, you know, the grand solar minimums just like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all that, really be coming up with solutions to how are we going to deal with these crop failures. I mean, I'm seeing some stuff. It's
70% of the wheat crop in Australia has been lost so far this year due to extreme weather. 70% of the wheat crop in Australia.
Now, that article was from Abrupt Earth Changes, right?
Yes,
so
I believe so.
AbruptEarthChanges.com. We have him linked off of our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com.
I believe so.
Sure
we'll have to double check.
Sasha Dobler has a great site, and he has an article that speaks to that. So, you know, definitely a lot of challenges here. So, anyway, I just wanted to come online real quick and discuss, you know, we had another earthquake, and you know, it's sort of been bugging me all day watching these notifications come up, like earthquake here, earthquake there, you know.
We were going to take a day off today, but every time her phone goes off, I could see it in her eyes. She was twitching over here. I said, all right, let's go live. So we just want to report it, and that way, you know, if anything, we're not making a big deal about it, but, you know, we are keeping an eye on the situation because there has been multiple earthquakes in various parts of the world today, as early as, midnight last night. So it's just been a very, very active day today. And, you know, I was looking at some data for our temperatures coming up here in the next 7 to 15 days, And if you live in the Northeast or in the Ohio Valley or the Northwest, and even in the Northern Plains, I tell you what, I'm a little surprised at how much the GFS has kind of changed a little bit. There's rumblings about another polar vortex split, which at this point in the year, that doesn't really mean anything. But what I find interesting is that the temperatures here in the Northeast, they're going to support snowfall if we get moisture. So there is a couple of chances for some decent-sized snowstorms to move through in early April here in the Northeast. And the Midwest, the Central Plains, the Northwest, there's a chance of snow every other 3 days, and significant measurable snow as well. So this is a very interesting spring season. I don't think I've ever witnessed a spring season that's seemed like it just won't get started, although last year it took us almost till June to get like 75 degree warmth temperatures here in the Northeast region. So interesting to see how this year compares to last year. Already, we are definitely colder right now than we were last year at this time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Mari, did you want to add anything else before we head off? We just wanted to kind of do a quick little...
I just wanted to get on and say, hey, we got another 6.0 earthquake. I like, when I see them pop off, I like just to hop on live real quick and just say, hey, we got our eye on it. We're keeping it. I have not heard... I think this is one of the things I said when I was muted by accident. I have not heard from anyone in PNG with the earthquake that struck there. Like I said...
What was that one? Is that a 6.3?
I think it was like a 6. I don't remember.
And there's so many in that region right now.
Keep track the past couple days,
yeah.
But it was a decent size, and it I feel it needs to be followed up on. The last one, when it was 7.5, the earthquake, we didn't hear. It took a couple days for the information to trickle out about how catastrophic that earthquake was. I was actually quite surprised because, usually you see things on social media, you hear something right away, but the fact is you're dealing with these really remote areas. They're not very well networked and connected the way we are. And it takes a while for these bloggers that are locals to come online and discuss it. And I have reached out to them, and, hopefully we'll hear back from them. I'm sure we will. Like I said, it's just a remote area. They don't have the connectivity that we do. And, just keep an eye on it. It's very interesting to see that unfold and how little we know. That 7.5 in January was awful. I have no information on how the landslides are. There was a river block. They were worried about all that infrastructure. So all I can do is say, we'll see. Right now, the city that was hardest hit is experiencing a state of lawlessness. They have lost control, and it's a sad situation over there. So,
since February 25th, the 7.5 they had there, we've had now, I think, close to 7 or 8, 6.0 or higher. So can you imagine, being in that region right now without law enforcement, from what Mari has told me from some of the people that she has been in contact with that region, murders, crime, looting, just complete anarchy in some parts of the region. So let's hope that some stabilization gets to that region soon. I hope by us broadcasting, people talk about this, it gets shared. That way, we got to have awareness to areas like what we're seeing happening in Africa, what we're seeing happening down there in Papua New Guinea. We have to have some kind of voice to get these people the help that's needed, because, just look how long it's taken in Puerto Rico, and that's not even nowhere near as remote as what the regions that we're covering today and other days.
I think it's important to follow these catastrophic events, follow up to see what they did and how they got through it, to sort of learn from what they did and how to improve upon the next, problem. Because you're definitely ignorant if you just think nothing's going to happen. It's just a learning step in preparation.
Absolutely.
These people are dealing with this, and how they survive through it will unfold. It's just interesting. I don't know. But we'll keep you updated. I don't really have much to say, Jake. I just wanted to hop on and talk about the earthquake.
While
I do apologize if I'm probably edit the dead air out. What do you think?
We'll do that. We'll take it off. That way people can get the info right away. While I got you on here, before I get off, I did look up the space weather conditions. Solar wind speeds are in the 470 kilometers per second. Density is around 10. KP indices is at 4, so we're just below storm levels. Actually, I take that back. Their 24-hour max is 4. We're at a 2 right now.
How do you do that without looking at anything? You have that on the top. He's like, all he's doing is holding the mic, looking like out the window, like at the top of his head.
Well, for me, and I know a lot of you out there are the same, when you hear about these earthquakes, the first thing they go look at is what kind of solar wind stream are we in? Are we experiencing KP indices increases? So, thank you for the compliment, but I just happen to remember just because, wanting to see why are we getting so much earthquake activity today? What's going on with solar wind speed? I wanted to monitor that. I think it's important that we all pay attention to this stuff. That way, the days that we have a lot of activity, we can kind of think back, well, we had solar wind speeds increased and there was this issue and that issue. So, but I'm a numbers guy. I've always been that way. And statistics. I think sports is what probably got me in the numbers. All right, I'm babbling. Anyway, so we might be back tonight if it warrants a reason. If not, we will see you guys 7:30. Like and share. We will see you guys Monday on 7:30 with our latest update and forecast on weather and whatever grand solar minimum headlines that are out there. All right, guys, be safe. We'll talk soon. Mute it.
Mute it.
Mute it.
No, I'm not going to mute
now
it now. I'm going to make up for the past. I'm just joking.
See.